hello, Leo listeners, and anybody watching this interview on YouTube or my blog or elsewhere. So, as some of you know, I'm doing a webinar in a couple of weeks. No, in a week, 10 days, on the 14th of October with Elena Mutunono, and the theme is Get Conversation Ready. The problem we've noticed is that many English learners, even with a high level who can understand complex spoken English like lectures or presentations, struggle to understand conversational English. So today I've brought along an expert for you. I'm really pleased to welcome Jason R. Levine, who is also known as Fluency MC. And he's an English teacher, trainer, and rapper. And he travels around the world teaching learners the 3 R's: relax, repeat, and remember. So I've asked Jason along because he has obviously this unique approach to teaching English, and his approach to rhythm and rhyme is really interesting for English learners like you who want to improve their listening skills. So, Jason, anything else to add?
Do you want Thank you for the introduction. Thank you for bringing me on. It's really great to have this conversation before you do the webinar. And yeah, I'm a teacher, trainer, knowledge entertainer, as I sometimes say. And it's great to be in France, where you are too, having this conversation, but also be with you online all over the place. So it's fantastic. Thank you. I guess about me, I might just add that I have an online practice program for adolescents and adults called the Weekly English Workout with Fluency MC, and you can find out more on my website. And I also have recently published an activity book, a song and video activity book for teachers to use in the English language classroom, so you can check that out also on my website. So that's what I've been focusing on, in addition to, as you mentioned, going to schools in different countries and doing workshops for students and training for teachers.
Cool. Okay, and we'll put all the links to everything we mentioned will be under the video, the links. So before we get into talking about understanding conversational English, I have a question for you about your name.
Okay.
Because you are Jason R, R, Levine. Yeah. So what is this R? What does it stand
talk about for? Relax, repeat, remember, but, relax is my middle name, so that's why, you got an expression in English, something like, but that's dangerous. Like, danger is my middle name. Yeah. So, I walk the walk. My parents named me Jason Relax. No. The middle initial is actually my mother's, my maternal grandfather's mother, so my great-grandmother's maiden name, Ramsdell, which is this, when you're a kid and they say, what's your middle name? And your middle name is Ramsdell, you say Robert, because it's embarrassing. So
that's not so cool, really, is it?
No, but it's a little bit cooler. I mean, Ramsdell, that's like where the ram goes, the field, and the ram, the tough ram.
So a ram is a male sheep for anybody. I'm trying to do a male sheep impression with the horns.
Very good.
Do you think? Yeah. Okay. You had. I'm a bit gullible, so the whole relax thing, I was like, no way.
Yeah, my parents were hippies, so some kids were named Hope. Some kids were named Peace, and relax. No, but I love R's, or I don't really love R's, but suddenly R's are in my life. You've got relax, repeat, remember, and also.
Okay, well,
the truth is, just very quickly, the real reason I put R in the way I do, it's actually a little online thing, because there are lots of Jason Levines. There are tons.
Oh, really?
So it helps a little bit, people to find my stuff, and for me to find my stuff, and to kind of brand what I do as Jason R. Levine, because there are not as many Jason R. Levines.
Yeah, that's pretty unique, I imagine. Okay, so let's get into our discussion for today. So as the Fluency MC, the master of rhyme and rhythm, why do you think many English learners are not conversation ready with their listening?
Yeah, well, I think to start with, every language has rhythm, but languages generally have different rhythms. And some languages, the difference in the rhythm from English is, huge. So without going into detail about different languages, the important thing is English, the rhythm of English it's not unique, but it's unusual for most people who are learning the language. Right? It has this 3-beat rhythm, which is actually connected to the word order of English being so structured: subject, verb, object. It didn't used to be. You used to have cases. You could move the words around in the sentence more. But now it is. And what happened, it's a very interesting story, how the pronunciation, the rhythm came from the fact that it became more the subject, verb, object, this dun, 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 right? So if I say, what are you going to do on Friday, right? There's that rhythm. And we don't, number one, raise learners' awareness. We don't talk about this enough, I think, when just in the classroom. And the second problem is there's not enough practice for listeners, students who are practicing listening with this idea in mind. So first, I think it's understanding this rhythm and noticing it, and then doing listening practice, sort of trying to listen for it, understand it, and also pronounce it yourself. Because if you start pronouncing things following the rhythm of English, the way it's naturally there, authentic, the more your listening will improve, and vice versa. So pronunciation and listening are really connected on this one, and that's true of intonation and other things. But to my mind, the difference in rhythm, the relaxed and connected speech, what I call the shrinking and linking, is the number one reason conversational English is so hard to understand, and why in a conversation it's hard for people to understand you if you are learning to speak English. Not so much individual sounds, although that's a problem too sometimes, but the rhythm. And there are many examples I can give you if you want now or later, of, I'm sure you have some of your own as a teacher, but where a student is saying something with the right sounds, but the wrong stress, and the person has no idea what they're talking about.
Yeah, it is a real problem, and I like the fact you mentioned pronunciation and listening, because really, if you can pronounce it, you can hear it, which is maybe backwards, because you'd think, well, if I can hear it, then I can copy it. But in fact, it's all very physical.
Yeah.
So I think even if an English learner, even if they don't adopt the exact same rhythm as a native speaker, that's fine. But at least, try shrinking and linking your speech. We'll talk a bit more about what that means. And then, if you practice it and, it sounds funny, it's hard to do, but then you'll start to integrate it into your ear and you'll know to expect it.
Recognize it. Exactly.
Yeah.
And I also think what you're saying about it sounds weird or not exactly like natives, there's relaxed and connected speech, shrinking and linking, as I call it, and then there's also fast speech, and it's not the same. So we don't say so what do you wanna do? So we don't say want to, and we don't also very slowly say wanna. What we say is wanta, right? And then when it's faster, it's wanna. So I think some students feel and teachers feel, this is slang or wrong speech, saying gonna, wanna, have to, gimme. The truth is that, when we speak naturally, slow or fast, we do this. We reduce. So, it's not it's not so much about it's definitely not about right or wrong English, but it's not necessarily about formal, informal usually either. It's more about speed, and what's different, formal, informal, is intonation, and that's a different topic from today. So that's where we really change things depending on we know someone or not, or politeness. The stress doesn't change. Nobody in a formal situation says, you should have come to the meeting. It's impossible. That's not about formal, informal. It's the difference. Formal, informal is should've versus shoulda. But it's always going to be reduced and connected.
Exactly. No, I'm really glad you brought that up, because I think the assumption is, this is fast speech, connected speech, informal speech. And really, all that's happening, and this is what you have to remember, is native speakers or even fluent speakers, because there are some learners who have a very high level and they have adopted these features of connected speech.
Right.
They're just trying to make their life easier.
They're
not trying to make it harder for you. They are trying to make it easier for themselves. And again, if you start, like, if you say want to, okay, and your tongue has to touch your alveolar ridge just behind your teeth to make the t two times, it's a waste of energy.
Exactly.
Why would you do that? So,
I talk a lot with students about this. I say, well, if we are reducing and connecting because it's not physically easier and a natural thing we do, then what about you guys? You guys are learning it as a second language. It's even more important for it to be easier for you to make.
And I think
but making it harder
exactly.
on yourself, not in a way that's not natural, and it doesn't. Yeah. So exactly what you're saying.
Yeah, learners think they have to be more careful. They have to. I'm doing it now. Have to.
Yeah, exactly.
Why would I can't. It's unnatural to pronounce it.
Can I tell you a really funny story? It's really quick, and it's just perfect for what we're talking about. I was in a introduction to second language acquisition, I guess, like in my master's program in New York City. It was, the first semester, so I really didn't know that much. I did the CELTA, but I didn't have a lot of teaching experience yet. And I was in this master's program. And the professor, who is a very formal person, it's important for the story, was showing us a lesson in talking about difference between going to and will and how, for future. And with a lower level group of learners, how would we present this and how would we do the lesson? And someone raised their hand and said, yeah, but wouldn't you also want to talk about the reduced speech, the connected, like, saying, she'll call you, not she will, and, gonna with a main verb, like, not like I'm going to leave soon, but I'm going to leave soon, or I'm going to call you, I'm going to be there. And the professor said, and I was thinking, yeah. And the professor said, well, this is a lower level group, and it's really important, I think, at this level for them to really be focused on more formal English, more formal context. And by formal, she's also thinking like, this classroom and me, this formal context. So that wouldn't really be applicable or appropriate. And then she said, so now what we're going to talk about. The next thing out of her mouth. And I was already believing her. I was like, okay, that makes sense. And then here she goes. And that's where I realized and then started looking into it. It's not about formality. What's the formal, if the rhythm is the rhythm, what's the formality is the intonation. And without getting too far into that, an example is an easy one. If you're talking to your friend, if you're talking to someone about, borrowing their car and you say, could I possibly borrow your car? Right? Or just let's just, could I borrow your car? But your friend, hey man, can I borrow your car?
Yeah.
Right? No, the difference is intonation. It has nothing to do with rhythm. Both of them are could I. It's not in the first one, it's could I as a way to show register or formality. The rhythm is the rhythm. And what changes is how fast. That doesn't change rhythm. We know that about music. The rhythm stays the same. You can go fast, slower. And it's the intonation that is the big one in English. Not in every language, but in English to show a difference in formality and politeness.
That's a really good point, actually, and I hadn't thought about that in that way, but you're right. But yeah, I'm really glad what you mentioned that connected speech is not to do with formality. And that's really funny, that the story of that teacher. It's just
we're not aware, or
exactly
should be aware of that. If anybody should be aware,
you think
someone like her.
Anyway, that's it happens. So bearing all this in mind, what do you think, or what would you advise learners to do to get ready for understanding conversations?
Yeah, well, I think it's kind of a three-step thing. I mean, I think the first thing is being aware of it. So through the kinds of things we're talking about, videos that I've made and other people have made, go on YouTube, look for things like connected speech,
Yeah.
and, rhythm in English and things like that. There's some good stuff out there. And then, as I mentioned before, I think it's important to kind of notice that when you're, especially, when you're watching, let's say, for example, a video that you've seen many times. So you're not thinking about what's going on, what's the story, right? Your brain is not, you know what it's about. So what you're listening for is not the content. You're listening for just this rhythm.
The rhythm, yeah.
And that can be in songs too. And I'll get to songs because that's my big thing in a minute. but just listening for the rhythm and shadowing, as we say, repeating is huge. Imitation is huge with this, and that's why songs work so well, because you sing along, you're naturally imitating.
You don't think about
without
it.
saying I'm going to shadow or something, So it's a little different with a video because we don't normally repeat after the video. As a song, it's more natural to repeat. But if you get into repeating after videos, and don't worry about that, it's really valuable because you also have, it's not a song, it's a real conversation, and the people are there. You can see their body language and etc. So that can be really good. Then the third step is not to think about it at all anymore. So just to, do a lot of repetition of songs or videos, and not thinking so much about where is the rhythm. I never think you should think, you meaning you learners learning English, I never think you should stop and put it under the microscope and think, where is this, primary stress and the secondary stress and the tertiary stress? I think that's all craziness. I think you've got to basically know, okay, we stress the most important words, we reduce the grammar words, and then just try to notice how it sounds and do a lot of repetition. Songs, especially hip-hop songs, because hip-hop, rap music is so rhythmic. It's a really great way to notice it and also to get your skills built, both here and here, with shrinking and linking, with this kind of speech. And the only problem, and this is what motivated me to write my own hip-hop songs, is that hip-hop songs typically do not contain the English that you need to practice most for school, jobs, tests. Moreover, they can be very difficult to understand. So the English is very special, right? Rap English. So I make songs with standard English, not because rap English is bad. I'm passionate about rap and hip-hop since I was very small, but it's a special kind of English. So it's really important for learners. I'm learning French. I'm not going to learn French through rap first. That's specialized, right? So that's why I make these songs. So of course I recommend my own songs, but if you can also find other songs, not just mine, that you like, that are really contain the kind of stuff you need to repeat, so that the rhythm and your pronunciation is improved, and so you understand when people speak in conversation. That's the best. Anything you repeat, and songs are special because there are not a lot of things we repeat. You like a magazine article, you don't read it 10 more times. But you like a song, you repeat the song 10 times or more. So that's why songs are so great. And just finally, don't expect it to be like everything with a language, I think, like a night or day thing. Like, okay, that's fixed. It's a gradual thing, and not to lose confidence, and, take your time. And it's normal not to understand everything in conversations for a while. So, it will come, though. It will come. The first step definitely is what you're doing today, is getting the idea out there more, how this speech happens, what it is. And I think people learning English, it's very interesting. You're curious about it, Why do people say wanna, gonna? So it's an interesting topic that can also really help to make it easier to understand conversation and to speak in conversations.
Well, thank you very much for coming along today and giving your advice. That is really cool. And so just a quick word about the webinar. So I've also added in the many, many links, there will also be the link to sign up for the webinar with me and Elena on the 14th. So please check that out if you're interested. And then if you enjoyed this video, don't forget to share it with all your English learning friends.
Share the love.
Thanks again, Jason.
No, thank you so much. It's great to chat with you.
Okay, thanks. Bye, everyone.
Bye.